This is TWiT.
Big, I thought, really good takedown. Cory Doctorow had two links to his pluralistic.net blog today. This is the other one. End of the line for Uber. I thought this was really good. He says, Uber is a bezel, B-E-Z-Z-L-E. It's a term I wasn't familiar with. He defines it as the magical interval when a confidence trickster knows he has the money, but the victim does not yet understand he has lost it.
Oh.
And he makes a very strong case and quotes a blog that has been for the last several years talking about this, Uber's, it's nakedcapitalism.com, Hubert Horan, 26 analyses of Uber and their quarterly results. And the conclusion Hubert comes up with, as well as Cory, is this was never designed to make money. You know, we all think, oh, yeah, Uber's going to make money someday, maybe when self-driving vehicles. Never.
Well,
it was a con.
said of Amazon as well in its day.
Yeah, but there is no path to profit for Uber. He said the pretense that self-driving cars would eliminate their labor costs, they knew this would never happen. They spent billions on a doomed effort, then had to bribe another company with a $400 million investment to take its window dressing away. They sold it. Uber didn't need self-driving cars. It needed us to think it would have self-driving cars. That way the company's Saudi owners could raise investment capital from subsequent investors, also known as suckers, says Cory, all the way up to the IPO cash out and walk away whistling innocently. He says Uber's almost out of cash at this point. And, Uber loses, as we've mentioned many times before, a lot of money, billions, but it claims it's making money. He says, how does it do this? Well, it lies.
Simply.
Uber eschews boring old, generally accepted accounting practices. Stacey knows that as GAAP. GAAP. And invents fanciful new forms of mathematics where losing money is good, actually.
Good stuff, yeah.
Every quarter, it releases new lies laid out like a profit and loss statement. And every quarter, Hubert Horan shows it's losing money. It's mid-2021, Cory says now, and Uber is going broke. Uber bailed or got kicked out of Russia, China, India, and Southeast Asia. So interesting. A true accounting of the last quarter has Uber losing 38 cents on every dollar it took in. 3.7 billion of its assets are actually worthless paper from failing overseas ride-hail companies. Uber's cash reserve declined $4.7 billion in 2020 and $937 million more in the first half of this year. They've got $6.7 billion in the bank, down from $14.6 in 2019. In other words, at this rate, they're going to have a problem. So interesting.
Can you say the same for Lyft?
Yeah, probably. The point Cory's making is while Uber, the problem with Uber, he says, wasn't just that it was a rapey, crimey, crooked grift. The other problem...
well, there's that.
The other problem with Uber, I love Cory Doctorow. He's the best writer ever. The other problem with Uber, he's also super smart and analytic. The other problem with Uber is that it's doomed and only exists today because of accounting fraud. And the real problem is it's ruined cities because they've deferred investment in
public transit. And it has made it impossible. Both Uber and Lyft took out all of the competition. And there's, we see this actually on Bainbridge Island. There's an argument to be made for local
taxi
services
companies
to arise.
Yeah.
But it's also given work. And every time I've talked to an Uber driver, they're not making a lot of money, but they love the freedom of it.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Yes, but it might help that small segment of Uber drivers. And I don't think it helps all the Uber drivers. I think there's probably a segment of Uber drivers who it works for them. The rest are there because they have to be, and it is an option, or they try it and they realize it doesn't work for them. Like I get really mad because my brother is, he's a DoorDash driver, and he's like, I really want to buy a different car because I don't want my car to have all these miles on it. And I'm like, you are just subsidizing their business.
That's exactly
right. You're
right.
subsidizing on the back of a person who is not financially savvy. He's very poor. I mean, it makes me very angry.
You could make the point, Cory does, that Uber has victimized drivers. They've also victimized restaurants because using SEO to trick people into thinking they were ordering from restaurants directly. Remember, Uber would set up fake websites with that restaurant's name. Non-consensually opting restaurants into its delivery service, subsidizing meals to set prices below break-even. Once Uber had diverted a restaurant's customers into relying on its service, it put the screws to restaurants, forcing them to pay, quote, marketing fees on pain of having searches for their business diverted to Uber-affiliated ghost kitchens. Thousands of locally owned restaurants will not survive the pandemic thanks to this parasitic conduct.
Like doormen in hotels.
And Uber won Prop 22 in California. They spent more than $200 million to get it to pass. I voted for it. I'm having some second thoughts. It formalizes, he says, worker misclassification, allowing employers to fire union workers, rehire them as independent contractors, and take away their pay, benefits, and rights. Horan, by the way, is a transportation analyst. So he has some, knowledge in this. And by the way, Massachusetts, I think, is now going to have its own Prop 22. They're going to vote on the same thing. So I think his point is Uber's going to go away. They're going to run out of money. The con is done. Everybody got rich through the IPOs and so forth. And of course, the investors are going to be the ones that lose their shirts. But they're also going to leave behind them a wreckage of bad city infrastructure, lack of mass transit, restaurants out of business, and underpaid workers who now have cars with a lot of mileage on it and no job.
Well, and I would also say, in addition to all of this, we can't just look at Uber. We have to look at the people who funded them and recognize that this is a pattern that plays out across the industry in terms of saying, we're going to fund winners. We're going to prop these people up with as much money, let them outspend their competition, and then suddenly we're going to pull the rug out from everybody, and they're going to look up and be like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Nothing exists.
Well, and he even blames the Wall Street Journal, which basically republished Uber press releases as news stories uncritically. So there is
We always do that.
Yeah. There's a system. It's called capitalism. It's called late-stage capitalism.
I am really distressed about late-stage capitalism right now when it comes to the launch of the smart surveillance technologies and the need that we have. Like IoT could totally help us do so many awesome things, like track pollution. It could help create circular economies where we're actually smartly fertilizing our plants and all that good stuff, right? But we can't believe any of this because the companies that are trying to sell us these things, they just greenwash or say that this is happening.
Right.
But a lot of the services they're building just feel like they're trying to nickel and dime us to death. And it's such a frustrating dynamic.